Dan Brown here with my wife, Danny Brown, and we're going to be working on the haircut prep with shears demonstration presented obviously by soc.consulting. The first thing you see here is our supplies. The shears, we have our citrus 2, we have our water bottle, and Danielle's going to get started now in regards to just dampening the hair, and we're going to kind of just follow along as we kind of just go over some of the different points from it. So the importance of dampening the hair when you're going to be cutting with shears, why is that important, Danielle?
Because it helps to create a smoother surface for the comb to glide on, and it also helps for you to detangle the hair much easier when it's wet. So right now you see where I'm twisting the hair, getting ready to cut. You see me just kind of show you with the comb where we're about to insert the scissor to cut the hair. And this technique is used when you're trying to cut excess or bulk of hair off. So I'm just cutting the bulk of your hair off right there. Not really the real haircut, just removing the bulk right now.
Yeah, and one of the things to remember with this haircut is that this is simply just prepping the mannequin for state board purposes. So it's not as if we're saying that this is a graduated haircut or a 45-degree haircut or a 90-degree haircut. This essentially is really just prepping it so that you don't have to start from really long hair when you're going to state board to get ready for your test.
Yeah, so it's just, like he said, it's just prepping the mannequin, removing the excess hair, removing bulk of hair so that you have less hair to work with at the state board. So I'm not really going to be talking about like angles and lines that I'm using. That would perhaps be a separate class, such as an advanced hair cutting class. But I will still try to use proper hair cutting techniques while doing this. But once again, it's just removing excess hair and prepping the hair for your state board haircut. So right now, obviously, sectioning the hair will allow for more control while cutting hair, or even in this case, removing bulk of hair. So I'm just kind of sectioning it so it makes it easier to work with. If you have a different technique or style, feel free to go ahead and use that. But a lot of barbers are not really used to working with so much hair. So this is excellent for persons that don't work with a lot of hair. Right there, I'm just showing you it's just two sections in the front, left and right. Right now I've moved to the back where I just make a center part, top to bottom. And I'll just make a subsection in the back right there. And I'm just gonna clip that piece up and away to have more control while I'm working.
Another good point about this in terms of prepping your mannequin this way is that if you're not used to using shears, like a lot of barbers, they're not used to cutting so much hair in terms of using shears to prep a mannequin. This is good because it really kind of helps you to really slowly but surely start to get used to using the shears. So I'll let Danielle kind of talk you through what she's going through at this point.
So at first, kind of when I just point on the ends of the hair, I'm just showing that I'm gonna cut that to balance it out or even it out. And right now I'm just pulling out just to remove the excess hair. Once again, I'm not really using or talking about lines or angles, but I'm just basically pulling the hair out at a 90-degree and just wanting to make sure that the hair is blended all over, because you really don't want to bring the mannequin to state board jagged. You got one side long and one side short, crazy looking. So you still want it to look uniform somewhat and clean when you bring it in.
Yeah, and when you look at your NIC standard, which is what most states are using for their state board guideline, it's going to say that the mannequins can't be pre-cut or pre-marked. Now, some have the misconception that that means that they need to walk in a state board with a completely long-haired mannequin, and that's just not the case. As you'll see at the end of this haircut, this mannequin will look like a mannequin that needs a haircut because the hair is still longer, but it's not so long that it's, a lot of inches going down the shoulder.
Right.
So it makes it a lot more manageable when you go to state board, and it's going to create less anxiety on your part to be more prepared.
So once again, we do offer the mannequins as pre-cut or prepped if you want to purchase them. Prepped if you kind of feel nervous about doing what I'm doing right now. That's all right. We can prep it for you at an additional cost. So, but if you feel like taking on the task, this is exactly what I do to prep your mannequins for you when you purchase them. So I'm just sectioning the sides right now, and in taking down the sides and the back together, it will allow me to create more uniformity, whereas the sides and the back will be uniform. So I'm still taking it out at 90 degrees and using my guide down the bottom there to cut up, making sure that everything will be uniform by the time the haircut or the removal of the excess bulk is done.
Yeah, and that's a good way of putting it. It's removing excess bulk. It's removing excess hair, because all you're doing, again, is prepping for the haircut that you're going to do at state board. Most haircuts at state board are going to say that you need to cut at least a ½ inch of hair throughout the haircut. So we prep it so that, again, you're not having to overwork yourself at state board, but also, too, we want to make sure that we do leave a decent amount of hair on it, so that you're not going with a mannequin that's too short, and now it stands out as, when the proctor or the examiner walks by, they're thinking, well, is it already too short? Did they already pre-cut it? So that's why the prep that we're doing here is essentially really just getting that excess bulk down, so it's just a manageable length, so that you can really, really do some cutting when you go to state board.
And with removing the excess bulk from the hair, you really could just drag the hair out and just chop it off, but once again, it's gonna look choppy, it's gonna look messy, and you really want to create a clean slate to work on. Just like if you're in the kitchen cooking, you want to cook on dirty counter and disorganized kitchen. You want clean kitchen to work on, or work in rather. So with our mannequin right here, we're just creating a clean surface, a clean mannequin to work on, and doing it this way, I think it will help you as well to have more, what's that word? I don't know what word I'm thinking of, but
control or confidence.
Yeah, more control, I guess, but it would just create a cleaner surface, I guess.
Yeah.
So even if you didn't pre-cut the hair and you take it in all long, I'm sure you'll probably get anxious. And also, I think it would take you a lot more time to get the haircut done, because imagine going to the state board, removing all this bulk right now, and then going into the actual haircut. That's just too long. That's just too much.
Yeah, and most haircuts for state board are going to be 30 minutes. At the longest, you'll have some state boards that will do 40. So the reason that we actually put this on our website or on Udemy or that we're really doing this at all is because no matter where you go, if you're prepping a mannequin for state board, no matter what state you're in, this is going to help you do that. And you'll be able to check out our other videos too in regards to all of our state board procedures from front to back, top to bottom, start to finish, whether it's the haircut, the shave, facial, blow dry, thermal curling, relaxer, hair coloring, chemical waving. But this video in particular, to go along with the thermal curl prep video, is for those that basically just want to get their mannequin prepped for state board. And you may not necessarily need all the steps, but we're giving you options here to be prepared.
Yeah. So it gets easier as you continue moving throughout the mannequin. I'm almost finished with removing the bulk from the mannequin right now. So I think both sides are done. So
are you using any kind of guide with this thing, or are you basically just pulling everything at 90 degrees, creating like those layers?
Yeah, I'm pretty much using a guide because once again, I want uniformity throughout the removal process. So right now I have the top crown section to finish. So I'm just sectioning the hair out in a horseshoe pattern, really, going around. And when I finish doing that horseshoe section, I'm just gonna take out what you may call pie sections. She don't want to behave. She's moving around too much. But anyway, take out pie sections to complete the removal of the hair.
And that's basically what you've been doing the whole time.
Pretty much.
It's basically going from the top, the bottom to the sides to the top, doing somewhat of a horse shape pattern to a certain extent, and then basically what did I say?
You said a horse shape.
Horseshoe pattern, and then pulling at 90 degrees and taking out the bulk, and then you're using the guide like right here on that bottom, like where like your nail is. You can see where the guide is, and then you're cutting the top part. And obviously, one thing you want to get used to is you see her doing more cutting here. You see that bottom that's gone. She's just matching it. You always want to remember that you don't want to cut past your second knuckle. So even more so highlights the fact that you want to have a guide so that you're not cutting too high up. Like right there, she's cutting it close.
And what I will say, once again, we're not doing an actual haircut, but you know, you still need a guide and some kind of uniformness to the hair removal process, because with going with the 90-degree...
Is uniformness a word?
Uniformness? Did I just say uniformness?
Yeah, uniformity. You could probably say that.
Okay, let's use his word, uniformity. So with going with the 90-degree, it will keep the uniformity of the hair?
I think it's a word.
Okay, because you don't want to go in, you know, you don't want to use like a 45-degree angle and then you have like a bob. So with using the 90 degrees, it gives you uniform layers all throughout, and it still kind of looks like a guy that needs a haircut, if that makes sense. When I'm finished with the entire process, I'll show you a full overview of what it looks like when it's done. So I'm working on the top crown section, so I'm just going to take some from the side right there, use it as my guide, and cut straight across. A little piece was left right there, so I just kind of went back. Take up some more. You see my guide right there. That's your guide, and you use that to cut the excess. Pick up some more, look for your guide once more, and cut. And I'm leaving enough on there, as you can see, so when you go to the test, you have more than enough hair to work with. So do not remove no more than about 4 inches of hair in your prep work, right?
Yeah, that's what you think is best, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would say don't take no more than that, because if you go shorter than that, you're gonna have a mannequin that's way too short to take with you. So, almost finished. I am still in the top crown section, just pulling out my pieces in the top and looking for my guide. And there it goes, and we are almost complete. I think it's almost done.
So now you're just kind of cross-checking to a certain extent, I think.
Somewhat, kind of, yeah. I'm just removing anything. Oh, I still have that front piece right there to complete. So it really doesn't take long. If you're at home doing this, it should take you about maybe 20 minutes.
I mean, it's hard. You can't.
Well, everybody's different.
Everybody's different. Because if you're not used to using shears and comb like this, it might take you an hour, you know, depending on what you're used to, because you're not used to pulling sections like this. At the end of the day, the main point of this is simply to say that it can be done. And if you just make sure that you are using a guide and you're just trying to just see, I'm about to do the same thing you said, uniformly, and making sure that you just are using that guide across the head, like, and you can see it traveling across. You see it still right there on the left, and then when she moves to the right one more time, you're going to see it again. So basically, when you do that, and then you start to get to a point where you're just you know, you feel more comfortable with the shear and the comb in your hand. Look how she's palming the shear, she's palming the comb, palm the shear and the comb as she's combing it, you know, not putting the comb and not putting the shears down. As you practice a lot of these techniques, it'll become easier. And then by the time you go to state board, it'll really be a lot easier in terms of really seeing what needs to be cut.
Honestly, I think it's a really good idea if you prep it yourself. because you get to practice using the shears and comb. All right. See what I'm telling you about? Basically looks like a guy that needs a haircut. So with prepping the mannequin this way, you have more than enough hair to work with, but it looks uniform, it's clean, and it's organized. You have a nice clean surface to work on, and you're ready for your state board.
All right. So that is our haircut prep for state board. Now, if you have any questions, make sure you contact us. You can contact me directly right there or reach us at soc.consulting.com. So we'll see you in the next video.